For the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love.
And what are some of the things that you've really
run out of time, and we've got to talk about your latest.
I want to go back a little bit, first of all, and celebrate a true legend.
Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work.
And did you pursue performing opportunities while you were in high school?
Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to my wrap-up. It's the end of another week. What have you been doing this week? What have you been celebrating? What books have you read? What movies have you seen? What shows have you seen? Are you back in the race again? Are you out there seeing shows? What are you doing? I am so excited about today's show because I have some very special people in the wings. And we are also going to give away 2 tickets to tomorrow night to Melissa Errico at Feinstein's 54 Below. For all of you who are watching the show, if you're able to go tomorrow night, please put in the comment section #balance, because that's the secret word today. It's all about balance. We're going to balance out the week. We're going to balance our emotions. We're going to take a deep collective sigh. And we're going to get through the week, we're going to get through the weekend, and we're going to move on. And I'm very excited to bring on my very first guest today because David Armstrong, he didn't know I was going to bring him on first, but he also has an incredible podcast. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the podcast, and we're going to get to know him a little bit better because we haven't really had a chance to sit down and talk with each other. The podcast, of course, is Broadway Nation. And David, before we begin, you are on Richard Skipper Celebrates. My show is all about celebrating. Besides Broadway coming back, having your own podcast, what are you celebrating today?
I'm celebrating that I teach at the University of Washington here in Seattle. I'm in Seattle right now. Unfortunately, I haven't been to New York since before the pandemic. I can't wait to get back. But I'm celebrating that I teach a class, 100 students, a history of the Broadway musical course. And we were back in person for the first time. This week was the second week we were back in person rather than being online. So that was thrilling to be sharing all this information about the Broadway musicals with the students in person and not have to do it on online anymore. So that was probably my biggest celebration of the week. The other thing was that the Fifth Avenue Theater, a theater here in Seattle that I was associated with for many, many years, just reopened as well with their production of Beauty and the Beast. And so Seattle is behind New York in many ways. The theaters are just starting to reopen in the last month or so. And so that's probably my biggest celebration, just going back to the theater in Seattle.
So, David, I want to ask, where did your love of theater begin? Did you start out as an actor?
I did, but I was one of those weird kids. I knew what I wanted to do from the time I was 5 years old. I mean, the legendary story in my family, at least, was that when I was around 5 years old, and my mother and her friend and her daughter, who's also around my age, they were taking us to the movies to see Dumbo, Walt Disney's Dumbo, and they went to the wrong theater and we saw Gypsy instead.
I don't think there are any mistakes. I truly don't.
I have no idea, but fell in love with Gypsy because, of course, when you're a kid, it's a kids on stage movie. It's about kids in show business. And I insisted on having the cast album, and I was hooked on Broadway musicals from that moment on.
And how did your podcast, which came first, the podcast or your teaching? I'm sure the teaching came first, but how did that segue into the podcast? Your podcast, first of all, is brilliant, and I bow to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I did start the course at the university. When I stepped down from the Fifth Avenue Theater 3 years ago, I was approached by the University of Washington to create a course for them. And the idea I came up with, the name of the course is The Broadway Musical, How Immigrants, Jews, Queers, African Americans Invented America's Signature Art Form, the Broadway Musical.
I don't think you left anyone out there.
Just the straight white people.
Talk about inclusion.
There's a few of those in there as well. Then as I was teaching it, I thought, well, this, and people were really interested. People keep telling me they wanted to take my course. I just kept hearing this from so many people. I wish I could take that course. I wish I could take that course. So I thought, well, maybe I should turn this into a podcast. And then when the pandemic, I was already starting to work on that. And then as the pandemic was coming and I was about to teach again, I thought, well, if I create these podcasts, if I start this, I can use those as part of the teaching while we're not in person. And that sort of jump-started it. So in 2020, I started the podcast and have used those in the course that I teach. And now there are teachers all over the country teaching musical theater. They're using my podcast as part of their curriculum. So that's really thrilling and fulfilling for me.
That's incredible. Well, David, someone gave me this wonderful game over the holidays. It's called Best Self. And there's an icebreaker game. Not that either you or I need an icebreaker to start, but I pulled a random question today.
Okay.
So it's probably a question that you've never been asked before. I haven't even looked at the question, so I don't know what I'm going to ask you. I hope that I don't offend you. I hope that you don't hang up on me.
It's hard to offend me, but try your best.
But maybe I'm sure this is a question that you've never been asked on any podcast before. It's an interesting question, but what's your dream car? Now,
my dream car.
Yes. Now
I have next to no interest in cars. No, I'm really honest about that. People talk about cars all the time, and I don't even know what cars look like. I couldn't tell you the name of cars. I drive a Mini Coupe, which I really love, and it's a hybrid. So an all-electric car probably is my dream car of some kind.
Well, I'm sure that you and I could both talk about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang ad nauseum, but we could not talk about a dream car. Well, I'm going to bring on our next guest, and everyone who's watching, those that are in New York or San Francisco know these two women because they are a phenomenon. Separately, they are stars in their own rights, but together they are a powerhouse. And I know I may have put you on the spot when I said you should definitely have them on your show, but I'm going to put you on the spot again. They should definitely be on your show. They are the ShowBroads. And here they are, Leanne Borghesi and Marta Sander. And I'm going to put them here so that they Leanne, you have to close one of those windows because we're going to get an echo. There you go. Okay, great. So Leanne, Marta, flip a coin and decide who's going to go first. So Marta, you and I have known each other a lot longer than I've known anyone else in this room. And I know a little bit about your history. I know about your coming to New York and everything. But if you can give us a Reader's Digest version about your trajectory to Broadway, your trajectory of leaving Broadway, going into the world of cabaret, and how you and Leanne met. How's that for a start?
Tricky. Okay, so I came to.
I'm going to give you the mic.
So I came to New York, and I went to the American Musical and Dramatic Academy, and I got a job. I got my first equity card doing summer stock, Stephen Slane, because I could sing a low F. So I was the housekeeper and the innkeeper's wife in Man of La Mancha, with Larry Guittard and Marilyn Child, who did it on Broadway, and all of that was great, but I would audition for things and they would applaud and, oh, you're great, you're great, you're great. But as my great voice teacher, Paul Gabbard, had said, you're going to come into your own when you're in your late 20s, just because I was, larger than life.
10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago. And so that's really kind of what was happening. And I wanted to sing. I mean, my whole thing was I wasn't saying, oh, I've got to do theater or bust. I was always saying, I've got to sing. And I knew in order to have to develop a style, I had to sing. So I started singing in cabarets and, waiting on tables, because that's what you do, singing waitress, that kind of thing. And in that mix, I met Carol Hall. And so when she was putting together, who wrote Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, and when she was putting together the workshop, the production for Best Little Whorehouse, she called me and asked me if I would come into the actor's studio and sing it for her, because she had a bunch of actors. So I did. So I was in the show from the very beginning and stayed in that, and had a big number that was cut 3 days into previews off Broadway, Ms. Bell and her sex circus, perfect casting. And so I wanted to sing, and singing, I felt like I was singing back up to non-singers, even though I was one of the girls and I was on Broadway. But when you're young, I was very headstrong. And I was interested in singing. I wasn't interested in doing backup. I wasn't interested in just being one of the girls. I had understudied Dolores Hall and did 24 Hours of Loving on off Broadway and all that kind of stuff. So long story, I got a job on the cruise ships, and I went off because I wanted to travel and sing was my big dream. And so I went off on the cruise ships, and that continued. And I went off singing in nightclubs and cabarets and all that kind of stuff, in town, out of town, around the world, happy. And then I met my husband. He picked me up at a piano bar. And so then we had a couple of kids real quick, and we just celebrating 40 years. So anyway, but the singing, I was an at-home mom. So there was all of these complications in my life that I had never imagined. And I don't know. So I just kept singing, and I'm still singing today. And I'm singing more now because I'm old and they're old too. And I'm in New York, and I keep singing. So I don't know. That's kind of how it is. And I got to Broadway because of that. And it was all la-di-da. And I got a big moment last year. I got a request from an agent to get back into it, to be on Broadway and all that. And I've really done a lot of thinking about it. And I kind of like my life the way it is now. So that's where I am. Sung with Leanne.
And a lot of people just fainted with that response that you just said. But there's an interesting synergy going on here as Leanne makes her way back to you, is that the connection with all of us indirectly was Houston Allred. Because the first time that I ever saw you was in that piano bar where Houston Allred was playing. I used to go to that piano bar and sing as well. Leanne, you knew Houston as well.
Yes.
I think the two of you met, correct me if I'm wrong, at a Richard Skipper Celebrates event. Am I right?
Yes, we did. We met at your show, and I thought, she's pretty good. I like her. Yes. And then she was doing her show at the Triad right up the street. I'm a little lazy. So I went, up the street, I can do that. And I was interested, because it was local. It was easy. And I went and I saw her, and I kept seeing myself. And I kept being pissed off that she had my boas, and she had my fans, and she had my glitter, and who is she? And I was blown away because I saw myself in her, and I loved all of that over the top. And so I waited patiently after the show. She said to her crowds, her loving, adoring crowd, I just waited. Anyway, we connected, and
I think you actually said to me, S blank, 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 I met my match. That's what you said.
Maybe I did. Who can remember? Long ago. I can't remember my name. So we got together. I don't know if we said at that moment, whether she said, why don't we do a show together, or whether we had lunch and she said that, whatever. And I went, okay, which I never would do. That's not something I'm just doing. But I was very intrigued, and we did. And it was a huge success. And we've been having more fun than we should have ever since.
Yeah.
Now, before we get to the show, which we'll talk about in a moment, Leanne, let's talk a little bit about your story.
Sure.
You live in San Francisco, but you have, over the course of the last few years, until this little thing called COVID, threw a monkey wrench into everything, we're really making huge strides, becoming what we call in the industry bicoastal. You were doing very, very well building a huge following. You already had that following on the West Coast, but really getting known here in New York. And tell us a little bit about your history and how you got started in the business.
Good luck.
All right. Well, let's see. Well, I've been bicoastal now. I've been in New York for 10 years. This is 10 years. And it was, I was doing musical theater and performance and creating cabarets in San Francisco for about 10 years up to that point. And it wasn't until I went to the Yale Cabaret Convention with Irv Rabel. And, I met Sally Mays and Amanda McBroom and Laurel Massey and worked with Sharon Knight and Alex Ryback and Tex Arnold. And I went then to the O'Neill that same year and met a whole slew, Lillian Markovici and Lilias White and Michael Bush and Penny Fuller, Barry Kleinbort, and everybody kept saying, why are you not in New York? And everything just aligned. I called my wife and said, wait, what's happening? And I said, do you think we could, ever go to New York? And she said, sure. Came back to New York that year after these conferences. And my best buddy who lives right upstairs, who's my director for all of my cabarets, this apartment was available right underneath. And I booked the apartment that summer and boom, I was in New York. And since then, it's been a wonderful journey of creating what I consider my brand, which is theatrical cabaret, and really bringing myself and my story and my character and a lot of comedy to cabaret. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years here. And it's been, I wouldn't change a moment of it. It's been a joyful journey and getting to meet so many people. And Richard, I first met you at Martuni's in San Francisco.
Now, the show that you put together, ShowBroads, is really a theatrical experience. It's not your typical cabaret show. It is the experience of what a cabaret show used to be like. It's a Vegas event, actually. It's if you had mirrors, it would seem like there were lots of showgirls and everything, because you and Marta do the costume changes and do all those things. I remember your show opened just before COVID. As a matter of fact, and I'm going to out him right now, not that he has not been outed before. I remember Mark Nadler at your show, me going up to Mark to give him a hug, and he went, no, I'm leaving in a few days for London to do my show there. And we were just hearing about COVID for the first time. And I said, Mark, you're crazy. Well, of course, that show got canceled. It didn't happen. And all of your plans, which were starting to unfold, started falling like a deck of cards. That was that. And, but you have performed your show since COVID, but you just...
not yet. Marta and I, we developed that show about a year at least. And we brought Dana P. Rowe on board, and we actually did it 2 years. Because 2 years, we brought Dana P. Rowe on board, and we did it in November of 2019. And then we did it again in March 2020, which was Marta's birthday. And then everything stopped. So we had Feinstein's in San Francisco booked for a weekend. We had option to go to New York. We had a producer see us through the window of Birdland, and he contacted Marta, and he's a producer from LA, and we were working with him to travel all around the States with ShowBroads. So we did have...
And the possibility of going to London, am I correct?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And so with the world pausing, we were going to be in Louisiana this month, but with the Omicron variant and the specificity of our show, and the time and the team and the musicians to put everything together to get it where we needed to go. We just didn't have the ability of time with the variant to get there by March. So we're still in a holding pattern.
But we were in San Francisco. We did a big benefit out in San Francisco at the Bravo Theater, and
with the Richmond Ermitage Foundation this December.
Right. And we had Dana P. Rowe and Scott, his partner, writing partner, wrote us a new song for a Christmas song. And so we opened the show with that. So we got out there and we each did a solo, and that was tremendous fun. 4 dancing boys with pull away, pants. That was the highlight of
Every
my
production should have.
Oh, yeah, no. Oh, I said, now I'm living. And so we did all that, and boom, Omicron hit. So we got it in there because it was the end of December. I mean, the beginning of December. So we got out to San Francisco. We got it. We had the jollies from that, and then everything closed down again. And so we're back like everybody else, but things are happening.
Yeah, we're working solo. We're doing our things that we can control, and you're doing yours, and I'm doing mine.
Right.
We'll come together again.
Well, let's have a little fun here. And I do want to remind everyone that I do have 2 tickets to give away tomorrow night from Melissa Errico. She has a wonderful new show, which she's on tonight and tomorrow night at Feinstein's 54 Below here in New York, celebrating music from film noir. So if you're available, put in the word hashtag balance, because this is all about balance today.
Yes.
We are a little balanced here, I think, everyone. David, I'm going to come back to you again. Any movies, TV shows, books, anything that you've seen this week, or that you've seen, or anything in the news of a positive nature that you are really excited about, that anything in the news or that you've read about that you want to share with everyone?
I have to say what excited me the most was just hearing that list that Leanne was going through of all those people that took me way back. I knew Irv Rabel very well. I put in my time at Don't Tell Mama doing Jennifer Lewis's nightclub act for all those years back in the 80s. So that was just wonderful. Actually, that was the thrill of the week, was to hear just that whole list of names. Mark Nadler and everybody that you were talking about really took me back to another life of mine. So
now,
that
David,
was exciting.
Speaking of Jennifer, and I know the Fifth Avenue Theater and my love of Dolly, were you involved with her production of Dolly?
I directed that production of Dolly at the Fifth Avenue Theater. I did indeed.
Yeah.
And you know, Jennifer and I go. I know Jennifer and I moved to New York right about the same time, back in our late 70s, early 80s, and we did a show together, and then I started directing her nightclub act, and we did that for 10 years, culminating in Jennifer Lewis on the Couch that we did at the Roundabout. And so she's one of my oldest friends in every aspect of that, I'll say. She'll love hearing that. But yeah, so when I got to Fifth Avenue, I knew that Jennifer had always wanted to play Dolly. And it took a couple of years to work it out because, of course, she's really busy in Hollywood. But it was thrilling to have her come and do it.
Well, I'll tell you, I went to the opening night of Dolly through a very generous friend with Bette Midler. I went to the opening night, and I was sitting in the front row, and every celebrity that you could possibly imagine was there. And Jennifer comes in, and she goes, "Oh my God, it's Richard Skipper!" And my heart jumped, because I remember her also from those early days at Don't Tell Mama. And of course, her poster is still on the wall at Don't Tell Mama.
Yeah.
And you, of course, being there, let's talk about her tactics to get an audience to come see her.
She would stand out on the street every day on 8th Avenue, handing out flyers in a bikini, practically, not quite, but she would do anything to get the audience in there to see her. I was so, she was indomitable in that regard. Fantastic. And she'd do the first act out on the streets in the afternoon, trying to get people to come to see her that night for Act 2, basically.
And she would come through these were the days where Don't Tell Mama was the one cabaret room. And I will say, with all due respect to what Don't Tell Mama has become, I miss the days when it was just the one cabaret room, because there was just something special about that one cabaret room in the back, the piano bar, the wait staff was, they would make an announcement about who was performing in the back room, and they would encourage the people that were sitting in the room to go and see the cabaret shows. And then somehow everything became a competition, and they didn't want to lose those people from the piano bars to go into the back rooms. And so, but they would make an announcement: if you want to see Jennifer Lewis in the back room, please let the wait staff know, the waitrons they called them in those days, and your drink will go towards your 2-drink minimum. And then they would bring someone backstage. They would bring you back into the back room. But Jennifer would walk into that piano bar, and she would tell everyone to get off their butts and get into the back room to see her show. And she meant it. And people would go.
People always went, and the stars came. Bette Midler came to Don't Tell Mama to see Jennifer Lewis. Diane Carroll came to Don't Tell Mama to see Jennifer Lewis. It was a parade of stars that would come to see her. She was like, I thought of her as like this was before Jennifer was a star at all, but she was like the stars performer in a way, the one that they all wanted to go see.
Marta, I want to ask you, what was the strangest thing that you ever did to try to get an audience to come in and see you perform?
Oh, gosh. I'd have to think about that. I'm not like Jennifer Lewis in that. That's more like Leanne. So I think you should ask Leanne.
Well, I will. Leanne?
I can't think. Off the top of my head, other than the normal, I don't know. I have to think about it, Richard. Really, nothing's popping. Nothing interesting, that's for sure.
Okay. What about you, Leanne? Have you ever done anything outside the box?
I'm a shameless hustler. I'm come from the streets of San Francisco before the internet.
Well, we were all before the internet.
Yeah, I've
Way
never
before.
promoting my own work has never been something that I didn't have a publicist. I just was my own PR person. So I've never been shy about sharing it. And I never understood the artists who were like, oh, I don't want to tell people I'm in this. I just can't. I just didn't have that problem of feeling shy. Because I create shows that are experience shows. I want people to have a good time. And so my work centers around a joyful, experiential moment and hit you over the head. And you walk out going, what the heck was that? I don't know, but it was so much fun. It's great. And so that feeling is how I create my work.
Great. I remember, Richard, back in the day, long before the internet, and we would label the town with our cards and our announcements.
Yeah.
And I remember going on the back of my friend's motorcycle with, going around putting the things up and all of the different everywhere.
You could put them everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. They were everywhere. And then somebody would cover yours up and you'd swear at them and you'd cover theirs up and all of the different. So there was that. There was a lot of physical paper that you were doing. I didn't have a publicist, but I think I wasn't that person who was going to stand out on the street, but I would get on the back of a motorcycle and go around putting my picture up and handing out doing all that and going out to the clubs. You're going out to the clubs and you're singing, knowing people, getting up and singing and knowing.
That was an important part of it. Absolutely.
I think so. Yeah. And back in the day, long before in the 70s, you're talking 80s. I was hoofing in the 70s.
Oh, I remember, Marta. I
know. I remember crossing. Laurie Beachman would be coming out of one club. I'd be going in another. Hey, Laurie, how you doing? This is long before Cats and all that.
And she would tell you what the crowd was like before you would walk in.
Right. There was a group of gypsies. Remember gypsies?
Yes.
And he was Wild Guy. And I did all of his clubs. Irv, of course. Irv Rabel was there. And Ted Hook backstage.
Oh, yes.
And Madam. And Michael Greer.
Oh,
close friend. Michael Greer and I did stuff together. But he was a very close friend. And also seeing all the great stars, Morgana King, and just going to all the clubs. You weren't paying the kind of money that you pay today. You could actually go in and see somebody and not have to get a second mortgage. But that's what I think. I'm a loud mouth, but I wouldn't stand out in front of a club.
Well, there's something about the personal connection, and that's where the internet it separates us from truly being able to connect. And I love to connect with people, and it's hard to fully understand who a person is without being in their presence.
Exactly.
And I enjoy that connection. I don't have a desire to perform on the internet or be an internet performer. It's not
No.
something that fills me in any way,
Not interesting.
unless it's a movie or something
Yeah.
different.
But I love the fact that you're here with me.
Oh, this is interactive.
We're not singing on this. It's we're
Well,
gonna have to
I was
perform
going
on
to
it.
Didn't ask us to sing, but we can. We're ready at any moment.
No, we're
Yeah,
not.
of course.
Well, we'll do it. We've done it. We're a couple of whores. I mean, ShowBroads.
So, David, my next question is, and have you ever met a celebrity and found that they were, and don't much kinder or ruder than you expected them to be? And if they were ruder, don't mention a name because I'm about celebrating.
All right. I have met a lot of celebrities that had a reputation for being difficult. I've worked with a lot of people like that, and I've rarely found their reputations to be true.
Thank you.
So I think that most of the time when someone has this reputation for being difficult or snarky or all that, I can see that could have been the case in certain circumstances, but it didn't happen for me. I will say that everybody who's been the lead in a TV sitcom is nuts. They are completely out of their mind. There's something about being the lead in a sitcom that just makes you lose your mind, but maybe delightfully so, but just completely untethered from reality.
Wow. What about you, Leanne?
A person who really changed my outlook on the business of cabaret, and she was also one of the guest celebrity teachers at Yale, was Tova Feldshuh. And Tova broke it down and really gave me some good advice and made me really listen. And it's a moment I won't forget. I feel like I grew up about a couple of good years in her presence during that conversation.
Do you want to tell us what that advice was?
I had done a show in New York, and it was a club that unfortunately went under. And I had never gotten paid from that club yet. And this was before I went to the cabaret conference. And I was telling Tova about this, and she looked at me and she said, "You don't deserve to be paid." I said, "What?" "You don't deserve to be paid because you didn't ask and you didn't make it happen." And she took my hand and she slapped it. And she said, "Don't be a baby. You won't be able to make it in this business until you stand up for yourself and stop being a baby." And I said, "Okay." And I said, "Could you please hit the other hand?" I said, "Okay, you get that money. You get that money." And I said, "Okay." I got my money.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And did things change in your mind in terms of the way you went after business from that point on?
I realized it was a business.
Good for her and good for you. Thank you, Tova.
I realized it was a business. So this trajectory is understanding the business and that it is a business.
So I saw a posting on Instagram today where a well-known actress said she was asked to speak on a women in empowerment panel. And think about this, women in empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
There was no money involved, but you'll get a lot of exposure out of this. Think about that. Marta?
That cut. Well, I think that I've had a couple of experiences where one was somebody who I admired her. One of the great singers, and now I'm not going to mention who it was.
Oh, that's great.
But I mean, really one of the great singers of all time. And I had an opportunity. I think I'd done a recording, and it wasn't mastered or anything, but whatever. I had an opportunity to get it into her hands. And I did. And she was that much older, and she was really bitter and angry and really took it out on me in that it was just really cold. I felt so rejected. I felt so let down. She was somebody that I'd listened to and had admired. And, you know, I was thinking about that as you're talking about, there's another person that I know that we know. And this is somebody that has a lot of talent, but what has happened is she is just old and bitter. And what I've learned is it's not a matter of who it is, but what the lesson is to be really careful, because we understand how this business can really hurt your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not fair. It's not
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fair. And it can be really, really, really hurtful. As my brother, who's an artist, has said, you know, you have to have the soul of a butterfly, the hide of a rhinoceros.
Right.
And that's what artists have to have. And you're always working on that. You're always developing it. And in these two different instances, the one who is more me observing her, I mean, I know her very well, but she didn't acknowledge me for about 5 times. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I wasn't even there because she was so angry, so bitter, and has been for a long time. And this is not getting any better. And the other one was also, she was much older, and it was anger and bitterness and not able to give to anybody. And so that's what I remember about that. And that's kind of like a warning to be really, really careful, because it turns you, it makes you not good. It's not
but
good.
When
And
I see someone like,
talent.
and I'm sure that you probably feel the same way, and I actually know who you're speaking about, but I feel sorry for her. And it's not, sometimes when you meet someone like that, you may have a tendency to get angry in response to that, to react in anger. But I just feel sorry for her, because opportunities are not going to come her way because of the anger.
No, if she's treating me that way, the thing is that we learn is that if somebody treats you a certain way, you're not so special. They're treating everybody that way.
That's right.
Not just, we immediately think, what did I do? Oh my God. That has nothing to do with you. They're blinded by this pain that they're feeling. So it was more a warning. As there's one great, a perfect example of somebody who is great as an artist and great as a human being is Miss Marilyn May.
Oh, yes.
And this is a woman who goes through life. She reminds me of my mother, of my aunt. There's a certain style of that era of genteel, of kindness, of just in her nature. And just, I've been so interested watching as she goes through, you know, so I'm on the outside watching, as everybody is, as she kind of goes through life, but hearing how she responds to me and to others, and just with these other examples and seeing that there's another way of doing it. And she really is. She earns, in my mind, the position of grande dame. She really does. She's someone to aspire to choose to that road, the high road, and not that bitter road.
But I think she appreciates where she's been and where she is.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Gratitude, basic gratitude.
Somebody had said to her once, she told a story, somebody said, "Oh, I wish I was like you." And she said, "A girl singer?" And they said, "Oh, yes." And she said, "No, you don't." I remember somebody telling me years ago, "Oh, I wish I was Barbara Streisand." And I immediately went, "No, you don't."
No.
That's, you know, we give it, I mean, you know, with Jennifer Lewis, my God, talk about a career and a trajectory, and then disappointment. And with her song and the slap in the face, she emerges. That's what we watch, and that's what we admire. That's real character. But it's hard. It's really hard. So we admire that. You can tell Jennifer we admire her for that. And not being a bitter old hag.
Yes.
She's the last thing but bitter. I will say that about her.
Absolutely. And she can still kick her legs up higher than Marilyn May.
Yeah.
So
65 last week. 65
years
old last week, kicking above her head.
I know. Birthday. Well, Leanne, speaking of slaps and great advice, David, what was the greatest piece of advice that you ever received in this business?
Wow. That's an interesting one. I think that it was sort of similar to what Marta was talking about, just this ability to keep going. Just do not there's going to be lots of obstacles and they're going to get in your way and you're going to feel like you're never going to get anywhere. But the people, I think really advice I got was that if you look around, the people who are still in the business are doing well. Mm-hmm. And the people who dropped out are not in the business anymore. And it's part of it is just a stick to itness thing. If you stick in it and you keep going and you move forward, move on, as Mr. Sondheim would say, mm-hmm. You will make a career. It certainly won't be the career you envisioned when you started out, but it will be something that hopefully you can look back on and say, wow, I'm really proud of that. But it could be, in many ways, I look back on my career and it's completely not what I thought it was going to be when I left, CCM back in the 70s. But it's, I feel really good about it. So it's that just stick with it, even when it seems like, even when everybody around you is deciding to give up.
Yeah.
And what about you, Marta?
My career.
I'm sorry?
Never thought about the trajectory of my career. I've always just created and lived in the moment of it. So there's different ways you come to your art. And if you ground it in your purpose of what your purpose is on this planet to do, and you're fulfilled in your life, it's a joyful extension of just who I am. So I'll do this forever. Mm-hmm. I'll do it for as long as I can.
Well, Davis Gaines, when I interviewed him, he said that it's like you map out a game plan. And then once you are in the throes of this, it's like being in a pinball machine. You are bandied around like that pinball ball. And it's the circumstances that you are thrown into, the people you meet, the circumstances, everything. And it's nothing at all like you planned. My life and career is not what I envisioned when I was growing up in South Carolina, but I absolutely love what I have created for myself in New York, and very happy. If God forbid, I was to check out tomorrow, I would check out happy. I'm happy with what I've done with my life. But Marta, what is the greatest piece of advice that you've received?
Several. One is go where they want you. And the other is people, and you can say, I do what I want. People do what they want. The rest, just excuses.
Thank you. I want you to repeat the first part again.
People do what they want.
That's right.
The rest is just excuses. And when I heard that, and I really let it settle, it has been so profound in my life, because every time from then on that I thought, well, and the something, as one does, and I go, shut up. You do it, or you're just an excuse. And it makes it easier, makes it simpler, because it is true. It is true. Only you have the power over yourself. Does it mean you can do all those things that you think, oh, I should be, I deserve to, whatever? No, because we know there's a lot of other people on the road. There's a lot of other people out there. But if you want something, then the work that is involved to do it, to stay in it, even when nobody's looking, nobody's listening, that's up to you. Otherwise, it's just whining. And whining is like too old. TFO, too old. And so I've used that really easy. And it works also when somebody around, well, then I would, but I can't, shut up. It's just an excuse. And the longer you let yourself give excuses or let others give excuses, just that whining, it doesn't do anything. It's just excuses.
Amen.
You do it, you don't do it. You want it, you don't want it. It works out, it doesn't work out. It's very black and white.
My favorite quote is by Richard Bach, who wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull. It's from the book Illusions. And the quote is, "Argue for your limitations, and sure enough, they're yours."
Ah, that's a good one.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Well, Leanne, do you have a favorite quote?
There's so many. I mean, we were talking about, the people that I've learned from, really, like being with Marta and being Marta's friend. I have learned so much, and being around you, Richard. So I was surrounding myself with the people. Yours, do something kind when nobody expects it. And, soul of a butterfly, hide of a rhinoceros. I mean, I want to surround myself by the people I like to create with, and the people that I enjoy and want to be around. And really, my world is being around all of my friends and you. Yeah. I've learned a couple things from you.
Yeah. I'm old now.
And what about you, David? Do you have a favorite quote?
It's along the lines of Marta. I had a very tough therapist for many, many years. She was, I used to call her the cosmic bitch from hell. And but I stayed stuck with her because she always told you the truth. And she said something, she's like, everything you have right now is exactly what you want to have. Because that's how you get it, because that's what you want. And if you do want something else, then you have to figure out how to not want the things you are calling into your life.
Yeah. And you are enough. Yeah, you are
enough. And it was a very positive message in the most negative way you could possibly phrase it, I think. But that's sort of how she was.
Marta, is there a memory in your past, looking over the trajectory of your career, a certain memory or something of that road not taken, where you go, perhaps I should have taken that road instead of this one? Or do you feel that you've always made the right decision at the right time in terms of the decisions you've made?
What I know for sure is that I've always made my own decisions. So I'm grateful that I don't have anybody else to blame but myself. And so when I think, gee, you should have the shoulda, coulda, woulda club or whatever, I go, yeah, but where I was at that moment, what I felt at that moment, all of that. And that was the decision I made. And is it the right one? Well, it was the one I made, and it's the right one, and that's where I am, and I've kept going. And if I didn't want to do that, I could have moved. I've always felt that I felt frustrated by the business, we all do, but I haven't let somebody else make decisions, and then I've allowed them to make a decision. So I go, see, you son of a bitch, you should have done, if I'd known, I wouldn't have listened to you. And if I had, I learned that earlier on that's one of the lessons that most people just don't. Nobody can tell you what to do. I remember at one point I was working at off-track betting in Times Square, because it was either that or wait on tables. And I got it through equity. So it had to be good. And I was working off-track betting. You have no idea.
I do.
I got a call. Then I auditioned for it. I got this offer to go on the road with Jerry Morton and somebody's kids. And it was me and another gal and Jerry Morton, and he would, do the dark in our cleavage. Don't ask. I don't know. And we were playing bars. We were on the bar. We're singing sophisticated music, and they're putting money, they're handing us money. So we're dive bars. But I didn't know what it was going to be, but it's singing or off-track betting. Off-track betting was the side job. Singing was the dream. And I remember they came at the same time. And I called my father and I said, Daddy, what do I do? And he took a breath. He said, well, that's a tough decision. He said, think about it. Whatever you do, we'll support you because we love you, because they were good parents. But, another friend, I heard that they'd gone to their father and said, what do I do? And he said, well, you go left or you go right. I think really we learn that that's in the end what it is. But if you are in charge of that decision, you haven't handed that over to somebody else, you have only yourself to understand, to really go back, because the individual is the one who knows themselves. Nobody else knows us the way we do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we know where the bodies are buried.
That's true.
Right? We got to keep laughing, you know, and we're still alive.
What about you, Leanne?
What
about you?
What was the question again?
Well, I'll ask you the next question. Is there a memory or something in your life where you feel that, you know, it's like the road not taken? Or do you feel that you've always taken the road that was the right road for you to take at any given time? In other words, are there any regrets with any decisions that you've made?
No regrets.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bit of a late bloomer.
Mm-hmm.
It takes me a while to understand. I always
Mm-hmm.
thought that, oh, I'll have a real, as I get older. Well, and now I'm older, and I wouldn't change all of the joyful expressions of art in so many forms. And I'm really proud at myself for just going after what I want to go after. And I'm not afraid to do that. And I know the power of that. So I'm just being more specific now.
Oh, good.
So I can focus in and spend my time. I feel like coming into a different part. And I'm grateful for that, especially after this pause. And being in New York now for this amount of time and the great experiences. So I don't have any regrets. Maybe other people had ideas for me that I didn't fulfill their idea of what I should be doing.
That's
That's
good.
not their life to lead. It's mine.
Mm-hmm.
And in no way would I change any of it.
Good. And what about you, David?
Same thing. I mean, of course, you know, you look back and you think, why would I do it differently, knowing now what I know then? But you can't. You
Mm-hmm.
can't know what you now
Mm-hmm.
know. So you did what you made the right decision at the right time. You know, are there things I did that I wish I hadn't done? Probably, but not in the big picture. You know, it's more like in the minutia of things.
Mm-hmm.
And again, because I'm about celebrating, no names, please. But Marta, who have you been most frustrated with in your life? And how did you get past that frustration? Again, no names.
Oh, well, the one that jumps out and hits me in the face changed the trajectory of my life. And it was powerful. It was painful. But what it did was it meant that I had to look for my happiness somewhere else. And it has expanded the richness of my life that I would not have had if I'd continued along the path that I was on, that this person successfully stopped. Now, I allowed that person to have that power. I could have pushed back, and I chose not to, because at that point I had kids, and I just, as a mother, I didn't want the negative. I didn't want to go after. I didn't want to say, why, what? Are you crazy? I didn't do that. Should I? Well, maybe, but I didn't. And that was my choice. But what it did was, in the end, I celebrate, because my life is so rich now in a way that it wouldn't have been. It could have been very rich in maybe artistically, but this widened my possibilities that I wouldn't have had that opportunity. And I'm still, you know, I have a second job that fills me and is fabulous. And I'm so grateful for that. I wouldn't have included in my life if I hadn't been stopped. And he was wrong, by the way, because I am all that. And he should be so lucky. But that wasn't his road either. He made his decisions as well for whoever he was. And I that's fine. We're not friends. You know, he's dead.
Well, there you have it. You know, Bill Maher.
Dead. You know, the witch is dead.
Bill Maher, who I do like, I was watching him last week, and his closing monologue, he does not believe in karma. I do.
Listen, you know, I had a radio show. That was one of the, you know, moments in time. And I actually brought him in and interviewed him.
Wow.
It was a thing. And it never aired. It wasn't going to air. He didn't know that.
Oh, my God.
Oh, no. But it was for me. And it was this like, get the nail out and give me the, you know, thing. And it was, you know, it was for me, it was a conclusion of something. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. My life is incredibly rich and I'm grateful for lots of things. And he was wrong, but I'm not, for me. And you know, I'm getting a big award this year. I'm doing a lot of things that you can't stop this girl, because this talent that I have is bigger than I am. It's bigger than all of us. Okay. So
you're getting an award? What's the award?
Well, you know, Frank Dane of Cabernet Sauvignon, he congratulated me on the award because I was told that I could only tell my friends.
Richard's your friend, and so is David.
That's right.
That's right.
And only the 5 people on the thing. Well, and it will come out, the 25. It will come out. Mac is giving me a lifetime achievement.
Oh, well, it's about time.
Wow.
Well, thank you. So that was very sweet. So I'm very grateful. I'm very, you know, part of me is surprised. There's another part that goes, yeah, been around long enough. What the hell? I really think, you know, listen, this is my philosophy, and this has come because I'm in a different head, is that every group has to give a lifetime achievement award. So if you live long enough and you get white hair, you're going to be in that pool. Well, I'm in that pool, and this was my moment. This is my year. So I feel very honored. And everybody who's listening, if it's not supposed to come out yet, shh, but it will.
Well,
because how did Frank Dane know? You know,
I'll share a story which will distract everybody from this story. And you know, but you know, we have no one who is anyone. I hope that someone is available to grab those tickets for tomorrow night, because I want to give the tickets away. And if not, you know, if you want to go, if you're not able to go tomorrow night, and you're able to go to another show at Feinstein's, I'm sure that I'll be able to pull some strings and get you another night to go see somebody else you want to go see. So just put in the word balance, #balance, and I'll see what I can do to make that happen. So when I was working with Sherry Eaker on the Bistro Awards several years ago, she wanted to give Elaine Stritch the Lifetime Achievement Award. And when she called Elaine Stritch said in her own style, Jesus Christ, if they give me the Lifetime Achievement Award, everybody thinks I'm going to die. And well, Sherry Eaker said, well, then we'll call it Continuing Excellence in Cabaret. And she says, well, then I'll take it. So that's what this is for. It's Continuing Excellence in Cabaret. And I can't think of anyone more deserving than Marta Sanders.
I appreciate it.
Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
And the
Thank
next
you.
night after that, she's doing her show.
I'm doing a new show at the Beachman. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
And on the Wednesday and on the Friday. Yeah. Called Lifetime Achievement, or Whatever Happened to That Nice Quaker Girl. That's the title of the show.
Or Continuing Excellence in Cabaret.
No. Whatever Happened to That Nice Quaker Girl.
Well, anyway, no one applied for these tickets, so I will use them on another time. I'm going to remove this screen. I love all of you. David, I am so thrilled that you said yes today, Leanne and Marta. I hope you all had a great time getting to just have fun and wrap up our week. Don't go anywhere for a moment. I want to thank everybody who tuned in. A few people, Deborah Stone, Rosa Puzo, who helps me out tremendously. Let's see, Sumitsuki is here. And
Hi, Sue.
she says,
Hi,
David, it's
Deborah.
great to see you again.
Yeah.
Larry Sherman is here. So thank you all for showing up. And remember, this is on the QT. If you're going to tell anyone about this award, only tell 5 or 10 people.
Tell them you don't know where you heard it. If they said from Marta, go, I can't remember. Come on, you know how to play that game. You're actors. Come on.
Or tell them you heard it on Richard Skipper Celebrates.
Yes. Tell them that game.
Yes. So anyway, everyone, thank you for being here today. If this is your first time, I know all of you, so I know it's not your first time. Please leave a comment here on Richard Skipper Celebrates. Share this with your friends. Tell everyone about this show. This particular show, Richard Skipper's Friday Wrap-Up, I'm doing every Friday, thus the name Richard Skipper's Friday Wrap-Up, every Friday at 5 o'clock. If you'd like to come on the show and wrap up with us, please reach out to me. I'd love to bring you on. Sue was here last week for my birthday show, and we had a great time. Thank you. And Leanne called me to sing, and I said, come on next week. And here she is. And I said, Leanne, who would you like to bring on? And she said, Marta. And here you are. So, and I reached out to David today, and he said yes. So that's how it all happens. I also, as I end every show, and I never get tired of this, and I hope you don't get tired of me saying it, I end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list. And today I say reach out to the 9th name on your friends list. Reach out to the 9th friend with a phone call. Not an email message, not a private message, not an inbox message, a phone call. And let that person know what they mean to you. I will say something. Last Friday, when I got the email messages and the phone calls with people telling me what I meant in your lives, it meant a lot to me. And I realized that everyone's not going to do that every single day. I don't expect you to. But it made me feel so special that day. And just a few days before that, and I've said this before, I lost 3 friends last week. And after they passed away, I see people rush to Facebook to post their pictures with these friends and to tell everybody how much they missed them, how much they loved them, all these things. And I go, wouldn't that have been nice if they had seen that 2 weeks before? And I think we need to take more time to do this. People rush to attack each other, to say things about things they don't like, shows they don't like. I see people rush to say things negative about shows they don't like, movies they don't like, songs they don't like. If you don't like it, leave it to yourself. But social media could be so much better if we take the time to like, comment, and share. And if something pops up that you don't like, hide it. So I'm going to leave the screen right now, and I'm going to let you, David, say anything that's on your mind, hopefully positively. It can be something about something we said today that you want to build upon, something that we didn't say that you wish we had, or just any message that you want to leave with anyone watching right now. And then when you finish, I'm going to take you off screen. And Leanne and Marta, you have the final word today. And once you say goodbye, the final credits will roll. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. And I will see you all mañana at 1 o'clock with my next show. Everybody, have a great tonight. And David, it's all yours.
Thank you, Richard. I'll just say that I am so excited and thrilled and a little trepidatious, like I think everybody is, to see things opening up again. And it has been a long, long road. And I don't know that we're completely out of the woods yet, but it has been thrilling to go back to the theater, which really for Seattle has just been happening in the last few weeks. So and I can't wait I'm trying to plan a trip to New York for the spring, and to be back in a Broadway theater will be thrilling as I know it has been for so many people. So I'm not saying anything that people aren't experienced on their own, but also to go back to the nightclubs and see Leanne and Marta, hopefully at some point in the very near future. So thank you, Richard, for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here and to meet these two amazing ladies.
And to meet you too, David.
Thank you.
We look forward to it.
I'll go. You can have the last word.
Go ahead.
So I learned about Schadenfreude, right? So Schadenfreude is where you get pleasure, a little bit of pleasure when something negative happens to someone else. And I learned the opposite of it today, which is Fraudefraudem. It's like the last words.
Say it 5 times fast. Never heard of that.
Believing when something good happens, be happy for the other person. So be happy for other people's wins. And when the spotlight is on you, enjoy it, and then turn it to someone else and let them enjoy their moment and be happy for them.
I like that. My brother would say, I would say on the phone, I love you. And he'd say, I know you do. He's no longer with us. I'm so grateful. I think when somebody says, I love you, I like saying, I know you do. It helps. So I wish everybody well. Love you a lot. Be happy for everybody. Look forward to seeing those of you that we know and that we don't know come up to us and rattle us wherever we are. This has been a real pleasure.
Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend.